Can some chemical substances in our body produce the feeling of love or the feeling of hate? That is a discussion today, and this is in context of Valentine's. All this is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from drbeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So, what is love? Can some chemical substances in our body produce love or the feeling of love or the feeling of hate? That is a discussion today, and this is in context of Valentine's. So I wanted to make sure that we break away from COVID for one day at least and talk about love. And let's see how the love is produced and not produced, and what is the progression of love in the human emotional state. I'm not talking about divine love or spiritual love. That is what I cannot talk about here. With this, let's see, here is the brain tissue that we are going to look into, and we are going to look at various structures here to see how the love hormones work. And then, of course, we're going to talk about not just the oxytocin, we're going to talk about dopamine, oxytocin, and then we're going to talk about serotonin, norepinephrine, and cortisol. So we're going to talk about a number of hormones, and we're going to look at the progression of love, creation of love, and then conversion of love to dislike or hate, and finally the breakup as well. And then how do we try to avoid that, and how are we more successful tomorrow on Valentine's Day? All right, so here we are. What is love? So tell me, what do you think? What is love? What do you think? Can it be hacked? Can we, by hack meaning brain hacked, can we change our chemical substances? Have you tried it? Have you changed your mood from not very loving towards loving? Have you changed somebody else's mood who was not in a very good mood towards a loving and caring mood? If so, what had you done? So here it is. The hormone that everybody talks about is oxytocin. And oxytocin agreed that whenever we touch our partners, whenever we touch anyone, human being to human being, I'm talking about, that does release oxytocin. It is not necessary that that person is our partner or not. And this is why people sometimes end up cheating as well, because this hormone is going to be released, and endorphins are going to be released, and norepinephrine is going to be released, and dopamine is going to be released with certain human interactions, even just the eye contact as well. This is an important aspect to keep in mind, that this is not just bound to your partner. So oxytocin here, then oxytocin is more in women than men. And the reason for that is that women use oxytocin, or the oxytocin functions in women to help with lactation as well. So baby and the lactation, what happens is when the baby suckles on the nipples, that causes the nerves that go to the brain from the nipples to cause the stimulation in the brain, which in turn causes the oxytocin to be released, which in turn causes the breast structures to kind of constrict, and that ejects the milk. So women have a more powerful relationship with oxytocin compared to men. Now here, let's start. Let's talk about those days when you fell in love for the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the nth time. But when you fell in love, what is that time? Remember, that is the most emotionally charged state. You would kind of remember a couple of things about that. Number one, somebody you loved, and the state is different from normal other states. And the second thing is that in that state, you become a little more tolerant to many things that you normally are not tolerant to. That is the interesting thing to look at. And so that's what we're going to look at. So here is what happens. The very first time when you fall in love with someone, the immediate hormones that are released are norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. It is not oxytocin. Oxytocin will be released. We'll talk about that in a second. But the most important immediate hormones that are released are norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. And here is the important thing in context of the Valentines. These initial hormones that are generated by falling in love with someone are not repeated when we start living with them, unless we kind of do activities that would help produce them. So the very first interaction itself can generate this. And what happens? So let's say you've fallen in love with someone. Norepinephrine released by suprarenal glands. Today, I don't want to do too much anatomy and physiology. I want to talk about the love hormones themselves. So norepinephrine is going to increase your focus because it is an enzyme which is for hyperfocus. It is usually for fight, flight, and fright. But here it is going to be used as well because there is extreme excitement. So focus is increased, heart rate is increased, blood pressure is increased, muscle tones are increased, your performance is increased, you're hyperacute, you are just totally focused. This is what you say, man, when I look at you, or woman, when I look at you, my heart is out of control. It palpitates, it beats, my heart is beating now. And that is adrenaline there. Now, how do you increase adrenaline? Of course, one way to increase adrenaline is if you scare someone. So, for example, on Valentine's, one thing that you can do is actually watch some movies together where there is controlled scare. But, anyways, we'll talk about what to do. Chocolates. You would see a common theme that will emerge is chocolate would help produce many of these hormones. So, chocolate produces or helps with norepinephrine production. Exercise, of course, sleep, better sleep, small wins, small accomplishments. So that is a very important thing, that with our partners, sometimes we fall the ideal life from a love point of view, hormonal point of view, is the following. You produce the hormones in the first stage, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Then you sustain them with oxytocin. Then you sustain that with endorphins. And endorphins would continue to cycle, oxytocin would continue to cycle. That is the way of life. That is the way of love as well. When there is a challenge in life, then you release cortisols and epinephrine and you handle that challenge, and then you go back to oxytocin and endorphins. That is the way of life. What happens is majority of us learn to live our life with cortisol and epinephrine, and we use oxytocin and endorphins sparingly and once in a while. For example, on Valentine's. And that is why many times we fail when we try to activate oxytocins and endorphins only once in a while, because these are supposed to be continuous, and cortisol and epinephrine, which are the stress hormones, they should only appear when we are in stress. We have learned to live in perpetual stress and then find islands of pleasure. The way the life is supposed to be from hormones and anatomy and physiology point of view is that we always live in the state of pleasure, and the stress are the islands that we have to manage. So our life has become actually upside down. So back here, norepinephrine, focus, heart rate, blood pressure, and so on. Then serotonin. Serotonin is really important to have a balanced, positive outlook on life. The lack of serotonin or less production of serotonin causes severe anxiety, phobias, depressions, and the feeling of irritation and loneliness and fear. When serotonin is present in the right quantities, then we have a feeling of well being, happiness, and anchoring. This is very, very important. When you are with someone and you release serotonin, you will think that that person is responsible for the feeling of well-being and anchoring in the world. This is why the love expression that you are my rock, that stems from the effect of serotonin, which makes you feel stable in the presence of someone. So you think that that person is your rock. It creates happiness. Now, how do we get more serotonin? Of course, we talked about some drugs as well. When the serotonin chemicals are too much imbalanced, then we need extra help. But happy moments produce serotonin. So please remember this. As they say that we remember moments and not days. So create happy moments, and by all means, recall happy moments. Happy moments, actually recalling them, produce serotonin. And so it is actually a good thing to do on Valentine's, to remember and recall some happy events. Massage causes serotonin. Massage actually helps release dopamine as well. So this is a common thing. Exercise, light exercise. Now, exercises are of two types. One, those that are rigorous exercises. These rigorous exercises do produce a lot of endorphin. I'll talk about that a little later, but they can also produce stress hormones as well, because your body is under lots of stress. So light exercise actually creates pleasure, and it actually produces serotonins and dopamine. And remember that light exercise helps against COVID as well. by reducing the cortisol and epinephrine like hormones. So, exercise, for example, yoga is great, stretching is great, a brisk walk is great. Bright lights increase serotonin. This is one of the reasons that people in more sunlit seasons or areas, they are relatively happy compared to those who are in snowy and less sunlit areas. So bright lights help produce serotonin. Tryptophan helps produce, it's an over the counter supplement. It is actually an amino acid that is used to make serotonin. 5 hydroxytryptophan, which is also serotonin. St. John's wort helps make serotonin. Dopamine, what does it do? Dopamine produces a feeling, a sensation of pleasure in us. That initial love, the feeling that you had, one part of that, the happiness came from serotonin, the sensations came from dopamine. It creates immense focus. Remember when you told your love that, hey, I can see the world, the universe in your eyes, and your eyes are like oceans? That focus that allowed you to look in that, one part of that was dopamine. It produces emotions, dopamine. It produces motivation. Did you notice that when you were in love, you could accomplish things? For example, I remember when we had to bring a gift for someone in love, we would figure out ways to buy that gift even when we were broke. Now, sometimes I feel that when we are adults and we are doing our day to day work, that motivation to get something done, which you get when you are in love, is actually missing in normal adult life. And where did that motivation come from? Dopamine. Pleasure and reward seeking. So when you have dopamine in you, you seek, you find pleasure, you find reward, you want to play, you want to have fun. These are all these symptoms of love as well, because these are the hormones that are working in there. Better recall. Remember when you tell your beloved that I remember the features and the lines and the clothes you were wearing and the colors, and you were standing here and you were, what is happening? The memory is improved by dopamine. It even helps with addiction, it causes addiction as well. Now, how do we increase dopamine? This is very, very important for today. Suspenseful movies. If you allow me, I'm going to create dopamine in you right now. So, when I was in FSC, FSC is grade 11 and 12. That is like high school in my country. And I had done very well in 10th grade. Before 10th grade, I did not go to school, as I have mentioned before. 10th grade, I did very well. I got a presidential scholarship. With that scholarship, I got some money. The very first time I got the money, I wanted to buy a bicycle. And I wanted to buy a sports bicycle. So what I did was, now imagine this is me, 17 years old, who's come from a broken family, has not gone to school for his whole life, does not have any prospects of a decent life in front of me, but desires are there. So I used that money and I borrowed some money and I bought a bicycle. And that was a sports bicycle with that, the handle which is all curved and all that. So bought that bicycle, bought little gloves to go with the bicycle and all that, and had a helmet and everything. And I decided to go to my college on that bicycle from my home. And I went on towards the college, and on the way, there was a red light, and the light was green for me. It was red for the other side. And I, of course, it was green. I continued on, and something happened from the other side. So if I stop here and if I don't tell you the rest, this suspense that is created and the emotional state that you're experiencing right now is the dopamine. So dopamine is produced by suspenseful activities or events, by cliffhanger stories, and by, if you see here, massage and chocolate. So for Valentine's, decide to watch something, a movie, a drama, something that is, number one, not too full of action. It is suspenseful, and then stop it before it ends. Let that cliffhanger cause the cliffhanging, cause the suspense in you and your partner. And that would create so much perpetual dopamine. Aren't you still feeling that, hey, what happened at that red light and the green light? What went on? That would create dopamine, which in turn would create a heightened sense of sensation, focus, emotions, motivations, seeking of pleasure and reward, and better recall, faster memory. Just to complete my story, so you're not going to have dopamine for the rest of this lecture. From the other side, somebody jumped the red light. They were on a motorbike. They came in front of me. I ended up hitting them. I fell from the bicycle, the front tire and everything. It was a sports bicycle that got destroyed. I didn't have the money to get the bicycle repaired. I fell on my hand on the other side of the motorbike, and that I fractured my arm. So that was my result of getting a bicycle. But that suspense that was creating dopamine in you. So chocolates, massage, suspenseful movie. Now, once the initial setting of love has created an initial blind love, that initial blind love, the passionate love, that love that doesn't look at anything else and is only focused on the other person and wants to forget the whole world, that is epinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. These hormones also suppress your analytical power. So they do not allow you to analyze the other person from a rational point of view, from a logical point of view. You just look at them and you love them. And why is this necessary? The eventual outcome of this bonding, this closeness, is for the woman, for the female to become pregnant. Because the whole thing here, we're talking about limbic system. So again, we're not talking about divine love, we're not talking about spiritual love, we are talking about the human aspect of the love that is in us, whatever you want to call it. So the end result of that bond, that has to be immediate bond, it has to be fast, and the result has to be the woman becoming pregnant. Once the woman has become pregnant as a result of that intense blind love, then the second part of this, both of them, the continuity of love, has to be with more sustainable hormone. And this is what people forget to tell when they talk about oxytocin. They keep saying oxytocin is amazing, and when we touch each other, we have oxytocin, and that is a love hormone. Well, that's not a love hormone forever. The beginning of love is dependent on different kind of hormones, which would then bring the couple to conceive a baby, to the sexual intercourse. Once that baby is conceived, now we need at least a year-long coverage of the female. That male has to now care for her and the coming baby so that they are protected. So now we need the next step of the hormone that would go for 12, 13 months. And yes, 12, 13 months. So the natural structure of the hormones is that after 12, 13 months, the body does not care for the two of them to stay together. So, of course, we are higher animals. We have higher systems, higher thinking, executive systems, and we can live with each other for decades and for the whole life. So, these are different thinking patterns, psychological patterns, but these are not the lower animalistic love structures. These are further refinement. So the oxytocin is the next hormone that would start getting produced. Oxytocin is produced when we touch each other, when we kiss each other, and when we hug each other. And guess one more thing, when we have eye contact with each other. Remember, eye contact is very uncomfortable. People say that, hey, I cannot look in your eyes. It just confuses me. Eye contact produces immense amount of oxytocin, and then the reaction of the body makes the people so uncomfortable that they break the eye contact. So now that the emotional bond is created, which will lead to sexual intercourse, the next step is to create a durable bond which would lead to mother and child's protection for 12, 13 months. And that is where the oxytocin comes in. Oxytocin is produced by touch. So on Valentine's, if you want to produce oxytocin, which would then create a sense of love and care, touch, hug, kiss, and eye contact produces oxytocin. And now you can actually also see how couples fall apart. when they become used to each other, when their oxytocin starts reducing, they start interacting physically less with each other. That results in less oxytocin. And if you think about it today in this pandemic, remote relationships are even in more danger because oxytocin is not produced by remote interactions. It is produced by physical touch, hugs, kisses, maybe some eye contact in the remote interaction, maybe, but again, it's really a difficult thing. And the result of that is that durable love diminishes and remote relationships fall apart. Nowadays, this is why the youngsters who are not going to colleges and schools, what is happening? So, of course, they're not all of them going and creating, hugging and kissing, but still interacting with the friends, touching them during games or plays, or just looking at each other produces oxytocin, that produces a sense of love and care, that produces a sense of well being, that produces serotonin, that produces dopamine. And the youngsters in homes stuck for a year, remember where they are reaching? They're reaching the end of oxytocin line. What is next after 12 to 13 months? Severe depression. Why? Because oxytocin is gone. So let's look at it. Oxytocin is produced or sustained for about 13 months once you fall in love and touch someone and hug someone and have babies with them. This oxytocin is stronger in females than males because mother also uses oxytocin for her child too. So she is more equipped to have more oxytocin and oxytocin related emotions. And I feel that there is one more thing which is interesting, and there is a lots of studies about that, and nobody actually has an answer for it. So I'm going to dare try to answer this one with my own research, and I may be totally wrong. And that is the PMS, or premenstrual symptoms, or premenstrual depression that some women feel. There are many reasons for this, and there is estrogen level dipping down, and then reduced estrogen level then causes the other hormones to increase. For example, reduced estrogen or fluctuating estrogen before menstrual periods causes a dip in serotonin, which in turn causes depression and anxiety and fear and phobia. And then woman cries more, and then she seeks a man for shelter and for safety. And when she doesn't get it, she becomes upset about it. This all, if you think about it, is actually a physiological mechanism to bring a woman closer to a man so that the chance to conceive is not missed. And when that chance is missed, then the hormonal changes create depression. So, anyways, let's continue our discussion here. So, oxytocin is produced. So, now the love cocktail was generated right in the beginning, which created a great kick for both of them. Then, oxytocin came in. Then, what happens is continuity. Now they have become a couple. Now they're gonna, in animal world, the two separate out after some time. But in human, we are also higher level animals. In our world, we don't just go our own ways, most of us. And so what happens is now we are banking on two things to continue our life with love and care and continue to have more Valentines together. And that is with endorphins. Endorphins are heroin that is produced in us. These are opioids that are naturally produced. And these are produced when you laugh together, when you play, and when you exercise. And one thing that is, I still remember when I was studying opioid for the first time in physiology in my medical school, I still cannot forget this Guyton book here and this one. They both are Guytons. This is my Guyton from my school time. That is my new Guyton for teaching. So in Guyton, when I read that when endorphins are released, they're released from the brain, from pituitary, they cause pain gating. The point of pain gating was this. Let me explain it. I was baffled. I was blown away by that idea. So check this out. Let's say here is a spinal cord. In this spinal cord, sensory information arrives in it. Then some of that would relay here and some of that will go up to the brain to produce sensation. The pain sensation also goes up to the higher center. However, when the endorphins are present, they create pain gating. What does that mean? That means the sensory nerve that brings the sense of pain And then the second nerve that is going to take it to the brain, endorphins sit here and block the pain. The result is that either the pain is felt less or not felt at all. And you must know this, that when you are playing games, for example, I remember I used to play squash. And one day I didn't have my shirt on and I was just playing squash with someone. And he was behind me and he hit the ball. And the ball came and hit me on my back. It was, he had hit it hard. The ball, squash ball, is normally hot, and I was sweating, so it just came and got stuck on my back, and I felt nothing, nothing at all. And that area became injured for a long time. That means there was injury, but I felt nothing at all. Why? Because endorphins had gated the pain system. So, endorphins are natural opioids which create pleasure. Imagine heroin, pleasure, euphoria, sense of pleasure. They reduce both physical and emotional pain. Remember, endorphins are produced by exercising, playing, laughing, that produces endorphins. They increase tolerance of others. So, this is the next love hormone. And how would this be received or generated? By playing together, by being happy together, by doing activities together. What are the things that produce endorphins? Exercise, going out in sun, eating chocolate. So you can see chocolate is everywhere. This is why Valentine's and the love messages usually have chocolates. Breathing deeply, yoga, laughing and playing, taking anti inflammatory diets, meaning less carbohydrate diets. All of them produce more endorphins. So now, if you think about the model of the life, there is an initial falling in love with the serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, then sustaining of the mother and child with oxytocin, then continuing with oxytocin with each touch every time, and with endorphins. Oxytocin reduces after 12, 13 months with the same partner. So, touching the same partner again and again does not produce the same level of oxytocin. And it does not produce that level of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin as it did in the beginning. So, what is the result of that? The result of that is that the woman would complain to man after a year that you don't love me the same way as you used to love me. And the man would start looking outside in other women. And why is that happening? Man is trying to get that initial kick of dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. He wants that addiction once more. Again, because we are higher animals, we have our executive frontal cortex, the personality cortex, that tells us what is socially correct, what is norm, what are ethics, what are beliefs. So it doesn't mean that everybody goes and does it, but man starts craving for those initial kicks, and woman who is now feeling the less oxytocin starts asking for, hey, your love does not feel the same. Now, there is a difference between two loves. The first kick of the love created blind, passionate, fiery love. The second continuation of the love was more stable, housemaking type love. In the fiery love, passionate love, the man or woman might bring a flower for their partner or have sex with them. And in the more continuity of love and care, sex may not be that important than caring for each other and living together. And when that starts going down as well, then they both get an issue. So, what is the solution then? The solution is to have endorphins and to have oxytocin by staying in touch and by doing activities together. Continuing on. Question now, the next is, are there actually possibility that the whole thing actually breaks down? So look, when the initial cocktail is gone, when the oxytocin levels are reduced after 12 to 13 months, when the life starts happening and we do not enjoy the endorphins enough, that means we don't play together, we do not do activities together, we do not laugh together, that does not create that pleasure and memory of attachment and bonding with each other, then what happens? If you see here, so this is that popular meme here. So this is the current partner. Oxytocin levels are reduced in both. So you can, I think, see it. So he's looking here because she is his possibility of that initial kick once more. So less oxytocin here, less oxytocin here, possibility of more norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. Again, this is not necessary that it happens every time, because we have executive functions, we have higher brains, we have education, we have religion, we have various belief systems that can help us know what to do and what not to do. But the hormones are working in this way. Now, continuing, how does the breakdown come together from a hormonal point of view? Look, now, best way to live a life was to have continuity of oxytocin and to have endorphins generated. Instead, what happens is we start living, at least in the modern life, we start living in stress and uncertainty, especially this year that we just passed, and we are still going through it. That stress and uncertainty produces cortisol and epinephrine. Epinephrine is like norepinephrine. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And what does it do? It prepares us for fighting. What is the result of that? We become irritable, we become angry, we become less tolerant, we become critical. We are upset on everything when we are in stress and uncertainty. We make bad decisions. Now tell me this, who are we going to do this all to? The one who is our partner, the one who is closer to us, the one we feel safe to do these things to, because we live with them and we think they might understand us. The result of that is that when we become critical, when we become irritable, when we show gestures and actions of, I don't care for you, but basically we are saying that we are under stress, the other side takes that as reduction in love. Majority of the time, there are many spouses, many partners who are very understanding and they can turn the things around, and you can see above what are the ways to turn the things around: chocolates and massages and playing together and touching and hugging and kissing and doing activities. Now, how are we breaking down stresses, uncertainty, remote relationships? Reduce interaction, reduce fun together, reduce dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and more cortisol and epinephrine. So then, for Valentine's, what are the things to keep in mind? Increase your serotonin levels by watching something suspenseful. Do some activities together in which you laugh and play. Hold a pen. So I say this to everyone and I do this for myself as well. Whenever you are under stress, take a pen and hold it like this in your mouth. This actually causes your mouth to stretch like you're smiling, like this. So if you don't want to do that, just do this, smile. And that smile would cause your brain to think that you are smiling and happy, and brain would change its focus towards pleasure and happiness as well. If you hold, and this is a very common thing in offices, people you may have seen, they hold the pen like this in their mouth. When you hold the pen like this, it actually causes the lips to purse up, which is a sign of anger and anxiety. And that tells the brain that you are anxious. So if you are just subconsciously, you're holding your pen like this and just sitting and thinking, this makes your brain more anxious. And if you take a pen and put it like this, it actually makes you happy. I actually started smiling when I put it like this. So chocolates, massage, and exercise together, cliffhangers of sometimes talk about stories, older times, yoga, pen in mouth, hug, touch, kiss, eye contact. If you are really not that much on the same page nowadays, just start having some eye contact. And you would see, then next you can say, hey, here are some chocolates. And the next you can say, why not we watch a movie? And then leave that movie in the middle to create the suspense. And then, hey, why not we do some other activities? And there you go. Old memories. Admire your partner. Don't be hungry. Now, this is a very, very important thing. In our brain, in our limbic system, in our hypothalamus, the hunger center, hunger and satiety means satisfaction, and the anger center, the part of the brain that is responsible for anger, they are next to each other. And one rule in our brain's tissues working is that whenever some part of the gray matter or brain tissue becomes active, the surrounding parts get some spillover from it. Although our brain is very, very good in trying to block the surroundings from getting the impulses spilled in them, but there is some spillover. So now think about it. When you are hungry, that would create a lot of activity in the hunger center, which would say, go get some food to eat or drink something. And that would spill into the anger center as well, which causes you to become angry as well. This is why people say, when I'm hungry, I'm grumpy. And that is because of this proximity of the two centers. That also means that if you are grumpy and if you drink or eat something, that would calm down the hunger center, satiety center, which will then spill into the anger center and calm that down as well. So that means for Valentine's Day, do not be hungry or do not be thirsty. So walk around with something in your hand and continue to offer that to your partner. Suspenseful movies, romantic movies, scary movies, all of these would create serotonins, dopamines. Go out. Going out would actually create a change in the environment, which nowadays is causing less oxytocin. We are very, very bored at our homes. Don't get too tired. Getting too tired will mean, so let's say you're doing some exercises or things and you've become too tired. That would mean that when the time comes when your partner is actually with all of these chocolates and massages and suspenseful movies is happy, you might be going to sleep at that time. So don't be too tired. Then do something that creates a surprise or unexpected thing. Surprise or unexpected event will kick in those initial love hormones, that is norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. And that can generate a complete new set of emotions. And with that, love you all. Have a happy Valentine's. Be happy. So let's do this. I hope you liked it. So, love you all. Happy Valentine's, or whichever belief system you are in. Every belief system, there is someone, some root fundamental for love. So, use that, whatever floats your boat, and keep your people around you happy and loving as well.